What do you think are topics of importance to research? Why do you think isolated compounds, and why do we need researches on whole natural extracts?
We have an enormous amount of history, an enormous amount of experience among humans using extracts from cannabis and from other plants. Using them successfully. There is a knowledge about different strains, about different ways of preparation, and I think rather than making sweeping statements, it would be extremely useful to help that knowledge to be verified, and we should not walk one way or the other. I think extracts are very useful. They are examples of a very, very old knowledge. I mean, let's put, for example, medicine like Ayurvedic medicine in India that still relies on a lot of crude extracts. There is a huge growing evidence in the area of nutrition that plants, that food we eat could totally alter the makeup of the human being, can alter disease state, can aid somebody who has cancer.
Can we say that it is the same treatment, let's say, with synthetic cannabinoids comparing to natural extracts?
No, we cannot ever say that because we have to take into account that when we synthesize something, we may produce a compound that's totally different. It may be different in its as a stereoisomer, and it can be different in its. There may be very small modifications, but pure compounds cannot be considered to have exactly the same action as an extract. The other thing with extracts contain many compounds, so you cannot compare it. If the extract is tested for one or other condition and it works, it does not mean that when you extract one of the key compounds, they will do exactly the same thing. So they are not the same. So they cannot equate to the same activity, the same toxicity, and that's well known in science, and it's well known from other plants. There is no reason to assume that scientifically. So if we use crude extract, that's one entity. If we use pure compound, synthetic or not synthetic, that's another story.
Is the discovery of endocannabinoid system implemented in medical practices anyhow? And do you think the medical profession is taking this discovery seriously enough?
Well, you could ask this question from many areas of medicine. You could actually ask, is what we know about nutrition accepted by medical profession? No. Patients with cancer who go to the hospital are offered tea and biscuits, and we all know they shouldn't have sugar. So no, it's not accepted. But on the other hand, we also have to be reasonable for the medical profession, because medics are trained to administer licensed medicines and trained to listen to the evidence. So it is difficult for a doctor who practices, who has a license, to actually embrace a discovery for which he maybe has no understanding. So I repeat it again and again, we need data. Data is something that the entire industry needs. Patients need it, regulators need it, doctors need it, producers need it. So to me, the most important thing of all is how in a society where we actually have a lot of money, as a society we do, we have a lot of money to fund many things, from wireless communications to driverless cars to going into space. How is it that we cannot agree on that one thing? Why can't we get data? That's something that I fail to understand, and I think as a society we can do it. There is money, just it's a matter of how we utilize the money. Do we go to the moon, or do we look at health? And maybe we can do both, but let's not forget one in favor of another. The way it is being done now, the access to cannabis for certain ailments remains fringe. It's not universally accepted, and it's dependent on a patient's location, on the relationship with their doctor, and very often on access to money to be able to pay for it. So again, we come back to the same situation. If we do not provide data, we will continue the declining right to care to many patients. I think the most established activity for cannabis worldwide is the pain relief. We know that. And we know there is increase in appetite for patients. We know that cannabis alleviates many symptoms. That's so well published. But when you look at the publication that actually show how many people survived when treated for cancer, where are they? That's the problem. So we know that it is difficult to get that data because we don't have the funds, the structure. Why can't humanity produce that data? I would challenge anyone that we could produce a data that would benefit everyone on earth within 1 year. Very easily from multiple countries with multiple doctors. We could have that data if we wanted to, and it wouldn't be extraordinarily expensive to do it. So why can't we do it? Why do we constantly argue, but we should be using it, but we should, how much does it take to produce data? If this is right, and we think it is, let's produce that data. Why do we have to argue over it? Why the regulators have to argue? Why the community has to argue? That's why.
But are there the intentions to do that, what you're saying?
Well, the problem is lack of communication across the globe. More we say that it's complex, okay? But I think we do need more straightforward evidence, and it wouldn't be difficult to produce it. So I think rather than maybe having a difference of opinion, we should agree on what are the most important things we need to answer within that area. For example, is it good for pain? So could we not produce an evidence that it is? If it's good for cancer and we think we could treat people get treated for cancer with cannabis every day. What would it take to actually combine that data into one coherent analysis? It's ethical approval, collaboration between multiple researchers, and you can tell me it's very difficult. I'm telling you it's not difficult. We spend as community, humans, we spend a lot of money on different things, and we raise money. There are charities. The question is, what it is we need more? Do we need to have better shoes or better cars, or do we need to address health And if we do need to address health, why can't we address health? I think it's a matter of getting enough people on the planet to agree that we need to address health, and then the solution can be found. If United Nations want to see healthier population, if WHO wants to see healthier population, if European community wants to see healthier population, what would it take for us? And I know that that's kind of utopian, but all these organizations are our representatives. They should represent humanity. So why can't we do that? What is actually stopping us from doing it? And I think to some extent what is stopping us is being fragmented. People are suffering separately rather than together. We need conferences like yours to be spread to 25 countries of the world. And today the regulators won't come, maybe not tomorrow, but they will eventually come. If the voice is strong enough, they will come, because at the end they won't have a choice but to come. And I think that they would be welcome.